Welcome to the K-12 Deep Dive. We are going to do this a little differently today. Think of it more like a live podcast with a demo screen. Emma is going to help us make sense of what we are hearing across K-12, and I'll be your tour guide through some of the Brightspace workflows that connect us to those trends.
That's right. And our goal is really to keep this grounded. So not technology for the sake of technology, and really not a feature parade. We really want to ask what helps teachers teach, what helps students learn, and what really helps schools and districts support scale without losing that human in the loop.
Exactly. And as we move through our presentation today, we have three big acts: AI in the learning moment, operational accelerators for K-12 scale, and the teaching and learning moments that connect students, evidence, and families.
And for those I have not met, my name is Dr. Emma Zone. I'm the Senior Director of Academic Affairs here at D2L. And my role today is really to keep us anchored in the learning story. So what are we seeing in education? What matters for learners? And how can product decisions really support better and more effective teaching and learning?
And I'm Annika Moline, manager of our solutions engineering team. And I come from a more technical background, having worked for a school district myself in the IT department. I've interfaced with many instructional designers, teachers, and leaders, and together we will be helping to showcase some of these new features and connecting them back to K-12 roles in the room, from teachers to curriculum leaders, district administrators, virtual school teams, associations, and program leaders. So why us? Emma, give us a sense of why you and I are up here today.
Sure. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of the trends we're seeing within K-12 and why we even have an academic affairs team here at D2L. I like to highlight this because academic affairs is actually pretty unique within the EdTech space. And our role is really to ensure that every decision that we make is grounded, again, in those sound teaching and learning practices. That's why we're here. That's what it's all about. So I get the privilege of spending a lot of time listening to educators and leaders across both K-12 and higher education. And part of what we do within academic affairs is really studying those emerging trends. We do a lot of research. We engage with districts and institutions, and we help to translate those insights into practical guidance for both our customers and our internal teams. And so what that means from our perspective at D2L is when we think about innovation, we're not starting with the question, what can the technology do? We're really starting with the question, what challenges are educators and learners trying to solve? And it is a slightly different lens when you come at it that way. So we're really able to bridge the educational practice and the technology development, and that helps us stay focused on outcomes and not just features. So it allows us to bring that practitioner lens into the conversation, which is what I hope to do today. And we'll continue to kind of dive into AI, assessment, accessibility, student engagement, instructional design, all of those key pieces that we know makes that quality learning moment. And most importantly, it really gives us a unique vantage point. So because we have the opportunity to work with educational organizations across the globe, we're able to really identify those emerging patterns, those trends, and how those are shaping the future of teaching and learning. And that's what I'd like to focus on next, Annika. So as we think about the K-12 tech trends, and when we talk about innovation in education, the conversation will often gravitate toward what is the newest tool, what is the latest technology, what's sort of the shiny new thing that everybody's talking about. But in actuality, one of the strongest trends we're seeing today within K-12 is a shift away from technology just for technology's sake, right? So district leaders are becoming much more intentional about their technology ecosystems. You know, over the past several years, we've really seen a lot of districts accumulate a wide variety of tools and platforms. And we know that while a lot of those really did often solve some immediate needs, they also created complexity for students, for educators, for families, for administrators, and we're trying to find simplification. And that's what we're really hearing in the field. And so today we're really seeing a new focus emerge. So streamlining technology to create those more coherent learning-centered experiences. And we're noticing that districts are asking questions like, are our tools working? Are they actually improving outcomes? How are they, and if they are, reducing workload for educators? Is it making it an easy, seamless experience for families and students to navigate? And really, do these tools work together to create a connected ecosystem? And so technology decisions are really being evaluated through the lens of institutional impact rather than just simple feature availability. And at the same time, we know that there's this growing recognition that technology really needs to amplify how humans are engaging, not replacing the human in the loop, right? So whether we're talking about AI or analytics or assessment, or even communication or how we deliver content to learners, the goal isn't just more technology. It's really creating more time for teaching, for stronger learner engagement, and really better visibility into what's working, how are students progressing, and how can we potentially intervene to help them be as successful as possible. And we're also seeing how districts are really prioritizing platforms that support consistency at scale while still allowing flexibility at the local level, so within those individual campuses as needed. So leaders really want solutions that simplify administration and reduce that friction and fragmentation, and create those connected experiences across their classrooms, their schools, their districts, their communities. And that has really been the resounding messaging that I have heard over these last few months. So Annika, if I could summarize this trend in 3 words, it would be intentional, streamlined, and learning centered. And that's a really key piece, right? Intentional in how the technology is selected and implemented, streamlined in how the systems work together and really reduce that complexity and sometimes confusion for people, and learning centered in ensuring that every technology investment is ultimately supporting better outcomes for students, for families, and for educators. And so I think as we move through the session today, you'll see these themes show up repeatedly in the innovations that we're highlighting. So not just as isolated features again, but as a part of a broader effort to make that technology more effective in the service of learning. So let's get started. I'm excited.
Amazing stuff right there. What a great foundation for what we're going to showcase today. So we're going to start with AI because it's everywhere. And I'll be honest, even as someone working in tech for many, many years, I still sometimes feel like I'm already behind. So my question to you, Emma, is when you think about K-12 students and teachers, what is the actual AI question we should be asking?
Yeah, it's a good one, right? So I think we've seen the AI conversation really maturing quickly. It's kind of moved from if to how, and teachers are asking, whether it's safe, is this even useful? How can it help me? Is it aligned to good teaching? And for students, it's not just can I access it, can I use it, but can they actually learn to use that AI responsibly within a certain context, with reflection, with source awareness? So it's shifted a bit.
That sounds like a big difference from the panic version of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So this idea, I think previously is that the panic came from, will AI replace me as a teacher, as an educator? I started my career in a K-12 classroom as a high school English teacher, and I can understand where that fear comes from. And I think the more useful version is really, how can AI support us as educators, as teachers and learners in the actual learning moment? Is it drawing from the right course materials? Does it show up in a just-in-time way when information is needed? Does it help keep the educator in control and allow that learning moment to occur? And really, does it help the student understand rather than just simply checking the box, right? I think we're moving to how is this happening and helping with critical thinking, and not just, is this a transaction that I can use to get my work done?
Oh, and that phrase, I love that phrase, in the learning moment, is it's a very helpful anchor for our conversation today. So what I'd like to do is show what it can look like with AI as a not as a separate tool, as a separate destination, but part of the workflow that's already happening in Brightspace. So this is a look at how D2L is bringing AI into the places where teachers are already working with tools designed to make everyday teaching tasks faster, easier, and more meaningful. Back in 2024, we intentionally started delivering tools with the instructor workflows because we wanted educators to build confidence with AI in practical and familiar ways, and because saving teacher time felt like the most important place to begin. So let me show you what it can look like as a reminder of what D2L Lumi Remix is all about. What I love about this experience is that AI is not treated as a separate destination or another tools that teachers have to go out and find. It's just part of the learning window and workflow itself. The support is grounded in course content, connected to the work that's already happening in Brightspace, and designed to keep the educator in control. So let's show that live. Here I am hopping over to a course. I happen to be in the new content experience, which we're going to talk about in a little while. As I navigate down to the bone structure unit, I'm going to show you a few pages. Here happens to be a text-based page. Here happens to be a page that I just borrowed and brought in some text from. What I'm going to do is hop over here and go to the edit area. And I'm going to let D12 Lumi Remix do the work for me. So I have my text below. I'm actually going to say modify with AI. And I'm also going to say, make this a little more friendly. So I'm going to give it some custom prompts. I'm going to say to increase the text complexity. And I'm actually going to ask it to apply some Creator Plus elements as well. Now, this might take a moment, so we're going to talk about what's happening in the background. This is taking the page content only, and it is not going out to the internet in any way, shape, or form. It's staying within the page of this content. Very important context there. It's taking the teacher's words, the teacher's chosen words for that page, and regenerating it to make it a little bit more fun and engaging. I'm going to skip ahead to a page that I've already done, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. When I jump in here, here's an example of, I did this earlier, and it came up with this artifact, if you will. I have the ability of putting in some additional context if I want to. There are my tabs with some information, and watch this. It even put in some call out boxes, and it put in a knowledge check, so a test for understanding. So I didn't have to come up with questions. It read that material and then created a couple of knowledge checks for my learners, and then the ability of expanding to see those answers. So talk about a really easy workflow from a teacher's perspective to take something that's already written and just put it into a little bit more of an engaging and interactive page than was there. Fantastic stuff. So it is a draft version, but it still allows me as the teacher to fully control what I want to do next on that page. If I want to modify any of the words or highlight or change something, I can. Draft version.
Love that. I like that notion of the language of first draft, right? I mean, here's a great example of how AI accelerates this process, something that would have taken a lot longer, but you still have that professional judgment with the educator going back to say, is this appropriate or not? You know, this is especially important within K-12, where we know that as teachers, we're making decisions based on age, based on developmental level, curriculum, the readiness that a learner or a group of learners may have, the classroom context, all of that is a variable thing. And so the educator must be the one who's ultimately making the decision around appropriateness. And so draft is very key there.
Exactly. I get to review the suggestion, edit it. I am not being removed from the workflow one bit. And now I'd like to shift to the learner experience and show you our new Lumi learner mode. It's still coming out. A student, it can be in a lesson, and instead of going to an unmanaged tool to support, the support can be connected back to the learning materials right in the course. Let me show you what this looks like. And now I want to shift to the learner experience and show you our new Lumi product called D2L Lumi Learner Mode. And it's really quite slick. A student is going to be in a lesson, and instead of going out to an unmanaged tool, the support for study materials can be done right there inside of the course. This is the difference between generic help and context-aware help. Let me show you. So I'm a learner here, and when I hop over to my bone structure, that same page that we were looking at from the teacher's perspective a moment ago, now as a learner, I have some additional choices over here on the right-hand side to open up this learner mode. When I do that, you'll notice that I've already created some highlighting. So I have the ability of letting AI intervene with the material on the page. And remember, this is all the teacher's words. This is not using anything outside of this page, if you will. I have the ability of asking it to explain something or give examples. And I also have the ability of adding my own notes. So for a long time, we've been asked about student annotation on content pages, and it's coming. So in the early stages, you're going to be able to add some notes. You can write in some of your own notes, and you can actually hop right over to our complementing tool called D2L Lumi Tutor. And let me remind you what Lumi Tutor's powerful capabilities are. So when I jump into Lumi Tutor, which will be within this frame, you never have to leave that window. It's going to look like this. Now, every Lumi tutor is going to be set up with a little bit different from every institution. You have the ability of controlling what the buttons look like, the containers, etc. But in this case, at the bottom here, I can see that I am looking at only that course, and I've already got a structured question here. So the minute I input that I want Lumi Tutor to help me understand bone structure, it's going to go review the entire course, and it's going to start looking up information and then presenting it back to me. Now, with Lumi Tutor, you have really two broad categories of questions you might ask it. One being more context-based about the structure of the course, dates, that sort of thing, or content-related, helping with study factors, if you will. So contextually, I might ask something like, when is my next quiz due? Or help me develop a study plan for next week. Those are more contextual based around study habits for the quiz, recognizing due dates. Content-wise, I might ask something like I am here, help me understand bone structure better, or build me a practice quiz on bone structure. So I really have some flexibility of using AI within the confines of the course to deliver personalized AI approaches right here.
That's super exciting. I mean, as a student, think about if you're in this moment where you just feel like you've hit a dead end and you're totally stuck, right? This is a difference maker, don't you think? I mean, this really allows students to have that next step and not to feel like they should just give up. And really, again, the goal here is not to do the thinking for the student. Look how much active learning had to happen there with the highlighting, the engagement. And the goal is really to give them that confidence to take that next step, to continue to stay engaged long enough to keep learning.
Absolutely. It's the difference between I'm stuck versus I have a next step. So the goal is not to do the thinking for the student, but to keep them engaged long enough to keep on learning.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
if I had to summarize AI, just showcasing what we did there in one sentence, it would be that that this is not AI as a shortcut around learning. It is an AI supported practice, faster authoring, clearer study help, and better signals with the teacher still in the loop.
Yeah, and I would add that really the best AI in K-12 should make the human parts of education more possible, right? That feedback, the relationship building, the reflection, that timely support. And this is what this does.
And that takes us to our next challenge. AI can support learning, but districts and associations still have to manage courses, content, users, groups, and programs at scale. So let's move on and talk about operational accelerators. And this is what I want to showcase here. We're really going to look at three specific operational accelerators: create space for reusable content, distributed administration for local autonomy and central governance, and groups for more flexible learning and support. Let's start with content, because this is where we hear so many operational pain points. Not just creating content, but managing it over time, keeping it consistent and updating it over many courses. You can see here on the screen that we released D2L Create Space back at Fusion 2025. And since then, we have started working with designated clients in a beta program to really solicit important feedback as we develop. You're going to hear from UMGC later. They actually have a fantastic story around Fusion and their version of using CreateSpace in the wild. And now it's ready for the broader K-12 group. So we're going to show you where we are today and a couple of upcoming features, noting that we're not done yet. We're going to keep going and building CreateSpace.
Yeah, I love this because as somebody who used to oversee large scale curriculum projects, this just lights me up, right? I mean, because this really is a curriculum leadership issue as much as it is a technology barrier or issue. And so when you have a district approved resource, it should not live as like lots of different copies that everybody has access to and may or may not be consistent. And then there's a lot of issues with whether or not this is an updated resource. Is this the right one? So D2L CreateSpace really solves that concern and that issue. I think there's also an interesting benefit here when we think about how this supports teaching teams and educators who might be new to a teaching team or new to a particular school or district, right? So having that centralized source of truth is huge. I think about back in the day, lugging binders around from one place to the next. This solves that problem, doesn't it? I mean, what we have residing here in D2L CreateSpace is so powerful because it means that as an educator, I can find what I need. Especially if maybe you're added to a different course at the last minute. I can think about when I was teaching high school English, I had a certain number of preps, and there were years where I came in and found out, oh, this year you're teaching American Lit, right? But I didn't have the summer to prepare. To be able to have this repository and understand what is most up to date that my colleagues are using, that would have been supremely helpful. And ultimately, it would have benefited students because I would know that they are getting those consistent materials. So really, in my view, and you can tell me if this is correct, Annika, based on what you're saying, D2L CreateSpace means that educators can easily find the materials they need, they know it's up to date, and then they can collaborate. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the differentiators with D12 CreateSpace is that you're able to author in CreateSpace. You don't have to go to a course and then push up into CreateSpace. You can actually go right into D2L CreateSpace and author there and then start collaborating. So excellent from a teacher's perspective, but also from those designers, course designers perspective. We have lots of those in our ecosystem as well, which brings me to a feature that I want to showcase. Coming soon is the ability to create inside of your course and then copy up to CreateSpace. So, originally CreateSpace was designed to help teams centralize content and author learning materials outside of that individual course, like I mentioned. Super valuable for those curriculum teams where you have more of a centralized model. But what is especially exciting about this particular feature, the ability to copy course content directly into your CreateSpace library, is that you never have to leave your course. So that means that teachers and course facilitators who spend their time inside of courses can bring their best materials up to CreateSpace without disrupting their workflow. It supports both centralized curriculum design and the everyday reality of classroom and course delivery. So in this way, CreateSpace becomes a more flexible, well-rounded tool, one that meets your teams where they are and supports the content workflows that work best for you. Because we have a variety of clients that come from a traditional K-12 world where teachers are teaching what they want to teach. We also have clients that have a more centralized model where they might have parent courses or source courses that they are delivering out to teachers. And then we also have clients that are also have a centralized whole course delivery model as well. So CreateSpace supports it all.
Very great. And I think about the opening of our conversation today, talking about that desire for simplification and decreasing clicks and having to go to different sources. This is such a great example of that.
Absolutely. And, once the object is used in Brightspace, the next question logically is, well, where did it go? So deployment tracking is also coming. So deployment tracking and linked copies are what make this feel like a real content lifecycle. You can see where content is being used and think about updates with more confidence.
That's great. I think that matters from the trust perspective, right? So if curriculum teams are going to be using this to build that reusable content, they really need to know, where does it live, who's using it, and how do any changes impact the learners? And previously, that was really hard to track and measure.
Absolutely. So if we were going to summarize CreateSpace, I would say that it's great for create once and teach many. Content should not be trapped in one course when the organization needs to manage it at scale.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are going to talk about another cool feature, distributed administration. And we're going to start off by saying, what is distributed administration? So in K-12, we often need we need the right to a local leader to solve the right local problem without giving everyone the keys to the entire system. So I really love this slide because it highlights that distributed admin is not a Brightspace tool in itself. It really is a framework with roles and permissions applied uniquely to tools that already exist in Brightspace. I'm going to use the example of the users tool. A lot of our audience is probably familiar with the users tool. And the idea is if you go into the users tool, you basically could search for and see every user in the platform. But under this new distributed administration workflow and the framework, we can allow for sub accounts, if you will, or sub administrators. So when you go to the respective tool of users, you will be able to only see the users that are beneath your arm of that organization structure. And we recognize that in our audience today, we probably have a variety of types of K-12 institutions. So again, K-12 traditional student learning districts. We probably have some PD organizations out there as well as we have some K-12 associations doing some great work.
We do. And I think that that's really the governance challenge we've heard time and again, because we know that districts, associations, folks need control, but they also need responsiveness. You don't want to be held back from being able to make key decisions because the technology is a limiting factor, right? So if you're a school leader or a program coordinator or a virtual school administrator, you should be able to support your area without creating risk elsewhere or seeing things that shouldn't be exposed elsewhere, right?
Absolutely. And again, the goal here is to delegate specific work within the defined boundaries. So in practice, this might mean a trusted local admin can manage users, as I mentioned, in their assigned area, review relevant course offering details, or support a program without waiting on central staff for every operational step.
Yeah, that's huge. Again, going back to talking about intentionality, simplification, so for our audience today, if you think about those school level administrators, those different teams, whether it's virtual or face-to-face or hybrid, you have association cohort managers, people who are running large PV scale items. It's really not just about IT efficiency, although that's what part of this is. It's really about making that support closer to where that learning happens without having to go through a lot of hoops.
Absolutely. And just to emphasize, it's going to help, distributed administration is going to help with faster operations. It's going to give local flexibility with centralized control. So think of even school buildings. I know when I was back in a school district, we had some schools that needed a school administrator, but they didn't need to see other schools' information. And this is going to scale effortlessly. So we keep rolling out new features with distributed administration. Again, not being a tool, but being a framework across our tools that exist already today. And it's naturally going to have some built-in data privacy as well.
Right.
So we're going to keep talking about some updates here. And another fantastic update that's coming is to our groups tool, because scale is not just administrative. Teachers also need flexible ways to organize students. Groups can support intervention, enrichment, project teams, sections, evidence review, and of course, professional learning cohorts.
Great. And we know in K-12, right, group work is really just group work. There's a lot more to it, and it can be complicated. It can be how teachers provide targeted support to certain groups of students. It's how students collaborate and learn together. It's really also oftentimes how we see project-based or problem-based learning in units come to life and get organized. And it's also often how schools run these PLCs, professional learning communities. So there's lots of ways that groups can be deployed.
Absolutely. And with this improved groups workflow, we're going to reduce the manual setup and make it easier to adjust enrollments and manage multiple groups. There's going to be less setup friction. It means more room for the actual learning design. So as you can see here on the screen, first of all, we're going to let you optionally turn it on as we roll out the features. Create and manage groups faster than ever with the new UI. It's just easier with less clicks to move around. There's going to be some bulk edit options, which is fantastic for fast and efficient changes. And then support for larger group sizes. So in those larger courses or situations where you have a lot of groups, there's going to be support for even larger than we have today.
So exciting.
Yes. So in summarizing sort of our operational accelerators, and again, we only chose a few tools to highlight for you today, but there's a lot out there that's coming. But these tools are built so that central teams can govern, local teams can act, and teachers can respond to real student needs. Now let's come back to the learning moment itself. I just love that phrase. What the student sees, what the teacher can assess, what evidence gets captured, and how families stay in the loop. Emma, in the K-12 user experience, it's not just the user clicking through a course. It's about the teacher planning and responding, the learner trying to understand what to do next, and the family trying to support from home, and the leader also trying to see whether the system is actually working. What makes that ecosystem even work?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. So when we talk about the learning moment, we know that students need to know where they are, what comes next, and how to show what they know, right? So that's a key piece of this. And we also know that teachers need the tools that really support feedback, that support that evidence building. But again, we don't want to add unnecessary steps. So families are a part of this as well. They need timely signals, that family to home communication and ultimately back to the school. It's part of that really important continuous loop. Families need those signals to understand the progress of their students and not just at the end of the term when the report card comes, right? So how can we involve family, parent, guardian as a part of that conversation as well? And the leaders need to be able to support this at scale, and they need the confidence to be able to do so.
So in our third act here, we're going to talk about the learning moment, navigation, assessment, evidence, and family communication. So let's take a journey and go take a look at content from the learner's perspective. So again, earlier we showed you a home page and I hopped right into the new content experience. And we're making some updates to it. We're making it simpler to move around, to see what's next. We've made some improvements over the last year, and you're going to see some additional improvements as well. Coming soon is going to be sequential navigation, where learners can actually see all of the items that are part of this particular course, but they're going to be prevented from hopping ahead. So really making sure that learners understand where they are and what to do next. And you'll notice that in the upper right-hand corner, I have my buttons of moving forward or reverse. So very familiar, easy to understand navigational components, in addition to a streamlined view on the left-hand side as well. And let's talk about, and now let's talk about assessment for a minute. So assessment is an important feature, as we all know. We want to use our familiar quizzing tools. Of course, there are additional items, but I want to talk about quizzing in particular today. We've introduced a couple of tools that make it very easy for learners to understand what to do next and take away a little bit of the stress of taking a quiz. So I'm going to jump into my quiz here, and I want to show you two features in particular. One is called strike through capabilities. And so you'll notice that here on question 2, I've already struck a couple of items out. So I'm already eliminating answers, giving me a little breath of fresh air that I'm narrowing down the answer and getting to done faster. The other thing that we're doing is you'll notice that there's a flag here. So I have the ability of flagging something so that I can come back to it later. Again, making it a very streamlined experience from a learner perspective by just improving a few simple tasks from the learner perspective in the quizzing tool.
We also know that's just great, skill in terms of how to engage and take any type of formative or even summative assessment and make it kind of come to life and really give that learner agency. So I love that. Small, subtle features, but really powerful from the learner perspective.
Yes, same. I love it as well. And let's talk a little bit about evidence. So we're making some changes to our portfolio tool. So portfolio has been a very important component of our K-12 architecture because so much learning is visible through artifacts, projects, performances, reflections, photos, videos, and just demonstrations of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that evidence really matters because learning is more than just a single grade, again, that ends up maybe on a report card or a progress report, right? So a richer evidence page can really help teachers begin to review that student work, see that progress, and it helps create a place where students can begin reflecting on their learning journey, on their growth. And again, bringing in that family, that school to home connection. Families can see learning in a more meaningful way rather than just, again, a letter grade or a number on a paper or on a report card.
So important. And we're going to talk about parents, the parent connection in a moment here. But, we're building some richer evidence pages. We're improving the search capabilities. We're going to make category management even better than it already is. So the portfolio experience becomes even easier to organize and review. A lot of our clients have been asking for a couple of improvements, and we're delivering. This supports student-led conferences, competency-based models, and the everyday need to capture learning as it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really is how that family connection becomes more concrete because we know that families don't just need to know that the assignment happened and that the student did it. It's much more than just a transaction again. Families really benefit from seeing the evidence of what my student created. And can it be practiced? How can I support? And how can it be improved over time?
Absolutely, which leads us into our fourth pillar here, the family. So I'm going to show you a really cool tool and a feature that's been added that helps with family being able to get those timely signals along with their learners. So what I'm going to highlight is the ability for our intelligent agent tool to now roll out to parents as well. And as a reminder, the intelligent agent tool is one of my favorite tools. If I could have a t-shirt that says I love intelligent agents, I would. What I'm looking at here is some agents that are already built out. And as a refresher, the intelligent agent tool is an automated email tool that goes out based on some condition. I've got a series of examples here where first, in a course, you might use just a simple welcome message. That might be the first intelligent agents that is used in a course. And then as I scroll down, you'll notice that I have the second one, which is an example of maybe there's a first post to a discussion and letting the learner know that you've clicked the button to submit this discussion. Scrolling down a little bit here, I have an actual low scores alert. You'll notice that my description here says that it sends an email to students and parents showing those lower than desired scores on key assessments. And let me show you what that looks like. So here I am in the actual agent itself, and you'll notice right here, I have the ability of using a replace string that includes the parent's email address. So there's the body of my email at the bottom here. And now that email could go out to both the student and also to the teacher. I'm sorry, also to the parent. Super cool and exciting.
And I'm with you. I love intelligent agents. I think they're one of the best parts about the platform. So it's so exciting to see the expansion of how we can impact.
So to summarize our learning moment, we talked about navigation. Students can see where they are and what comes next. Assessment, we're adding into the quiz tools some great new features that lower friction and that anxiety and build confidence. We're enhancing the portfolio tool with some additional search capabilities and better overall management. And then we've added some more family controls for communication. So in summary today, what we showed you was thoughtful use of AI. We reviewed these products in particular. We talked about Lumi, the D12 Lumi Remix tool from a teacher's perspective. We showed you the new D2L Lumi Learner mode, allowing highlighting and note-taking right on a page. We also reviewed D2L Lumi Tutor, a fantastic way for a learner to ask for support in a contextual way as well as in a content-driven way. Then we talked about operational accelerators. And again, there are many, but we chose these three to highlight as part of our deep dive today. We talked a little bit about forthcoming D2L Create Space features, distributed administration framework features coming, and some updates to our groups tool. And then lastly, the real learning moment. So we talked about content uplift and navigational controls, making it easier for learners to know what to do next. Quizzing updates, as we mentioned, portfolio enhancements, and lastly, that communication to families. We've often heard that intelligent agents are a fantastic tool, but they would love for those agents to be able to run out to parents, and it is here.
Wow, that was a lot and exciting. Thanks for showcasing all of that. I think what makes this year so exciting is that the story, again, is bigger than just a list of new features. It's really about how D2L has listened to K-12 organizations and make that move from managing digital tools to really creating, again, those more connected, human-centered learning experiences. And that's really what this is all about.
Absolutely. And across Brightspace, from D2L Create Space to the Lumi portfolio to our portfolio tool, quizzes, groups, etc., you can see the theme coming through. Less friction for educators, more clarity for learners, and more scalable support for school and district leaders. Features like D2L Create Space, content syncing, and distributed administration really show how D2L is helping organizations manage learning at scale without losing local flexibility or that instructional quality.
It's huge, right? And so we also know at the same time that updates like AI-powered learning support, which we showcase, there's richer portfolio evidence, the quiz tool, things like flagging questions and striking through the answers. They really keep the focus on where it belongs, which is on the student learning moment again. So in a market full of really these disconnected solutions, I think that D2L's strength is that we bring teaching, learning, assessment, content, family engagement, the administrative side of the house, and really responsible AI together. And it's in one connected learning platform. So again, intentional and very streamlined. And I think that's why this year feels so energizing. We're not just showing what's new, we're really showing where K-12 learning can go next.
Great session. Thank you.
Thanks.